Here, Big 550 KTRS. Stephen Roberts, ABC News political analyst. Well, the day before you do anything, check in with our next guy, Stephen Roberts. Good morning, Stephen Roberts.
Hey, pal.
What are you looking at for tomorrow? What are your keys?
Well, one key is I think that the race is narrowing. I think we can now say that all the talk over the summer of a blue wave was premature. You look, for instance, just one basic fact. Yes, in the Washington Post ABC poll out this morning, Democrats are favored to win the House by 8 points, but that's down from 14 points over the summer, which tells me that the trend line is tightening. I do think that Donald Trump has succeeded in energizing his base by all the talk about illegal migrants. I think the Kavanaugh hearings helped, and I think the single most important thing that's helping is the economy. The record-setting news last weekend of huge number of jobs created, unemployment 3.7. Our poll shows that 65% of Americans feel good about the economy today. That's the most optimistic view in 18 years. So that has to be helping the incumbent party. One of the oddities of this moment in politics, McGraw, is that the president continues to keep campaigning on the invasion of immigrants instead of the economy. Paul Ryan, the Speaker of the House, called him over the weekend and said, "Mr. President, talk about the economy." And the president keeps saying, "No, it's the immigration that's really going to fire up my base." It's kind of an odd judgment in some ways.
No,
but I do think the election is a lot tighter than people think.
It's so true. Even closer to home here in Missouri, Claire McCaskill is talking about pre-existing conditions, and Josh Hawley is trying to get as close to Donald Trump as possible. Nobody mentioning the great economy. It's really bizarre.
It is bizarre, but Donald Trump's theory about politics is always divide, not unite. It's polarize, not find common ground. He won the election. He won the Republican nomination and won the election by following that theory that you divide the electorate, and you maximize the turnout of your supporters. And the way you do that is by giving them red meat issues to get them angry and fearful and motivated to vote. And that's how he won, and that's the same game plan he is following. The fault line in that is that this year his strategy is also causing a reaction. It's causing a backlash, particularly among college-educated white women. They're much more energized than they were, oddly enough, when Hillary Clinton was at the top of the ticket. And you see in America today the two fault lines that are most prominent beyond the obvious ones of red and blue, Democrat and Republican, are gender and education. In our poll this morning, white men without a college degree, 39% pro-Republican. White women with a college degree, 16% pro-Democratic. That's a gap of 55 points. That's astounding. So it's gender plus education. And one of the potential problems with Trump's analysis is that for all of the people in his base he's energizing, there's an equal and perhaps even more forceful reaction on the part of particularly educated voters who are alarmed and offended by his emphasis on those red meat issues.
Stephen Roberts, what are you looking at tomorrow in the early returns to tip it one way or the other?
Well, some of the early states that are critical, there's a very interesting House race in Kentucky, which is always the first state to close their polls at 6 o'clock Eastern time. There's an incumbent named Andy Barr who's being challenged by a woman who is a military veteran, a Democrat. Democrats win that seat, it's going to be a very good night. The other state to look at is in Virginia. There are 4 Republican seats up for grabs. All 4 seats, the Democrats have nominated women. And one of the things that is going to be true on Wednesday morning, no matter who controls the House, is that the House is going to have many, many more women in it next term than they've had this term. And so even if there's not a blue wave or a red wave, there is a pink wave, and that's for certain.
What do you make of the exorbitant number of early voting?
I think it's a reflection of the fact that Trump is so polarizing. I mean, he has been out there saying over and over and over again, the election's about me. Now, to some extent, that's just ego, right? Because everything's about him all the time. But I also think that he has succeeded in energizing both sides, as I say. Our poll is fascinating. Wall Street Journal's got a poll out this morning. It says that 75% of Americans, almost 75%, say their vote is a message about Donald Trump. Not about health care, not about the economy, not about immigration, but about Trump personally. Of those voters, 40% say their message is a negative anti-Trump message. 32% say it's a pro-Trump positive message. So I think that the single biggest factor causing this turnout is the enormously powerful emotions and sentiments generate both pro and anti this president.
I guess there's something we can't know until afterwards, but with all these people voting early, are they new voters voting early, or are they so excited they want to vote, and therefore it's the same people voting, they're just voting earlier as opposed to on Election Day?
Hard to know. The partisan breakdown, as best I can tell, is virtually 50-50. Now, in some ways, you can say, well, that's good for the Republicans because the Democrats have held a lead in all of the polls all through the primary season. But it's also true early voters tend to be heavily weighted towards seniors who have a lot more time to vote in the middle of the day, and they tend to be a pro-Republican electorate. If you look at early voting in states like Nevada and Texas, which are the two that have had the biggest surge, at least one possibility is that we're seeing as a surge of younger voters and minorities. Democrats have hoped and largely failed, apart from the Obama election, to energize particularly Hispanic voters and younger voters. One of the key reasons why Clinton lost was because she did not match Obama's totals among minority voters and younger voters. If those early voting statistics in a state like Nevada or Texas indicate that those two groups, particularly Hispanics and young people, are voting in larger numbers, going to be definitely a pro-Democratic night.
Well, Stephen Roberts, I'll tell you that for me, the big race is in the Scottsdale City Council race. My Wellesley graduated older sister is running for City Council. If she wins re-election, it'll be a good night. So that's all that matters.
Well, I'm married to a Wellesley woman, so I'll root for your sister.
There you go. Stephen, have a good day. Thanks for checking in.
Okay.